what does success look like for young people? When you work for a Deloitte or a Goldman Sachs or whoever, there's that kind of brand value that's associated with what you do, but that aspiration doesn't go kind of deeper beyond that. So I think there's that societal pressure and that feeling of getting a job like that is seen as success, and it is successful, right, for certain people, and especially if you want to do that type of work. But for those people that want to apply their skills in something different, there is abundance of opportunities out there, and especially for those, I guess, social enterprise or social impact organizations, they need the skilled workers to be able to further their work. But you're absolutely right, it's just about kind of getting their message out there and, you know, exposing more young people to those opportunities.
Thank you so much for clicking on this episode of The Millennial Entrepreneur. The ambition of the podcast is to show relatable stories from young entrepreneurs doing some incredible things to inspire the next generation, including you listening wherever you are. We've been doing this podcast for over 3 years and the ambition has not changed. The only thing that has changed is the scale of where we want to go. We want to bring on bigger guests for you guys to show more and more relatable and inspiring stories from young entrepreneurs across the world. The majority of you guys listening haven't subscribed to the podcast yet. All you have to do is click that subscribe button wherever you're listening on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and that will allow us to bring on bigger guests and ask the questions to them that you really want to hear. And it really is that simple. So thank you again for clicking on the podcast and enjoy the episode. Anna, welcome on the podcast.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm a bit jet lagged because I've just come back from India a couple of days ago. Yeah. But other than that, I'm pretty good. Thank you so much for having me on.
You're a bit of a soldier coming on because you have to go to Birmingham later today as well, right? So it's a lot of travelling for you in a very short space of time. I guess, like, why were you in India? And then we'll go back to the sort of like your business.
Sure. So I was just in India for a couple of months. So there were two reasons why I'm there. One was to run like a 10-day social leadership program for students from the University of Surrey. That was based in Ahmedabad, which is a city in Gujarat. And the program had like the theme of kind of enterprise, innovation, personal leadership development in the context of India. And that's kind of a follow-on from a lot of the work that we do with UK universities, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit more about in a second. And then the kind of second reason why I was there is that as well as running our workshops with universities in the UK, we also run our workshops with universities and business schools around India, and we're looking to open up more of those kind of UK-India university partnerships as well, so hopefully we're going down that direction as well. So those are the two reasons why I was there.
So yeah, let's go into it. So I guess, like, what is the business, what are these workshops you're talking about, and I guess how did it start?
Yeah, I think it's probably relevant to speak about how it started because then it neatly follows on to what we do. So I think there's a Steve Jobs quote in his Stanford commencement speech where he speaks about you can't connect the dots looking forwards, you can only connect them looking backwards. And there's another quote that says, you can't be what you can't see. So when I was 17, I was very much like on a linear path. I never thought I'd be kind of creating my own career path. Everyone around me was, very much go to school, go to university, get good grades, get a graduate job, married, kids. That was the linear path that I saw in front of me. But I participated when I was 17 in a service-based leadership program in India that opened up a whole new world of opportunities for me. It kind of really changed the way I saw leadership. I guess just being in India itself was really a unique experience, and it got me interested in social impact related work. And I think one of the bigger learning outcomes from participating in that program is that because it opened up that whole new world of opportunities for me, my path was no longer linear. It now had like multiple routes, and the personal growth that I felt being a part of that program made me seek out more of those opportunities after that program. So it inspired me to start a social enterprise whilst I was at university. The personal growth I felt of just being in a different country, experiencing a new culture, encouraged me to study abroad whilst I was at university. And then between kind of years, I did like a corporate internship one summer, and then I wanted to reconnect back to the work that was going on in India. So I essentially kind of created my own internship with a social enterprise that's based there, that works on waste management and women's empowerment. And going through that experience and having the direct comparison of the corporate internship that I did the summer before, like the experience just didn't even compare. Like the learning and growth that I felt being in India, being a part of a dynamic team, being given real responsibility, working for something bigger than myself rather than just sat behind an office desk, kind of really then pushed it and made it clear to me that that was the path that I wanted to go down. So then coming into my final year of university and after graduation, the social enterprise that I worked with in India then partnered with the United Nations Development Programme. So then I got the opportunity to do a UNDP placement with that social enterprise straight out of university. And it was during that time that I developed like a social entrepreneurship experience workshop, which I somehow managed to sell to UK universities here in the UK. And then we ran these workshops and it had great impact. But it was during that time I started to reflect on how I was able to take this path straight out of university and why so many of my peers who were interested in the same, when I talked to them about what I was doing, they'd be like, I would have loved to have done that. But I realised it was kind of, because at an early age, I had these opportunities opened up to me, that enabled me to kind of follow my curiosity and take that path straight out of university. And as you continue doing more, obviously more opportunities opened up for you.
Yeah.
So that was the kind of foundations of where Project Chakra is built, kind of realising that I wanted to open up more of these kind of pathway opportunities for so many young people who are interested in the same, but may not have the pathway opportunities opened up to them. So that was kind of the journey into growing the business. And
like, what was the whole purpose of starting these like workshops, I guess, like for UK universities? Was it because of, opening up opportunities post-university for a lot of young people?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it was the recognition that I have personally gained so much from working with these social impact organisations, working in a dynamic environment like India, that there's so much to gain from that pathway. And also, young people's aspirations for what they want to do in their careers is changing. So I think the Deloitte Millennial Survey suggests that 47% of Gen Z want to make a positive impact in the world through their work, but they often don't know how or what that looks like, right? So, and I don't know when you were at university how you were thinking, but we get so caught up in kind of like the graduate schemes that we need to apply for, like
it's
the
so
banking, the consulting. And even for me, I had all these opportunities, alternative opportunities opened up for me, but because everyone else was doing it around me, I felt the need to apply for all these, internships and kind of graduate schemes as well. And so for so many young people who are skilled and want to apply their skills in work that has a positive impact, if these opportunities aren't visible and opened up to them, they will just go down that normal route. So that's the intention, to hopefully open up more of these opportunities for these young people that want to apply their skills in something that has a positive impact.
Those opportunities, like for working within these corporates like Deloitte and I guess like all the graduate schemes, they are extremely abundant. But I wouldn't say like those social enterprises or like work, like jobs with impact are less abundant.
Yeah,
like they're just as, or if not more abundant than the graduate schemes. The only thing is they're not as sort of like, their marketing isn't really there, I guess. They're not really like forefront of people's minds.
Absolutely, and this is where the conversation around what does success look like for young people, right? So I think when you work for a Deloitte or a Goldman Sachs or whoever, there's that kind of brand value that's associated with what you do, but that aspiration doesn't go kind of deeper beyond that. So I think there's that societal pressure and that feeling of getting a job like that is seen as success, and it is successful, right, for certain people, and especially if you want to do that type of work. But for those people that want to apply their skills in something different, there is abundance of opportunities out there, and especially for those, I guess, social enterprise or social impact organisations, they need the skilled workers to be able to further their work. But you're absolutely right. It's just about kind of getting their message out there and exposing more young people to those opportunities that are out there. Absolutely.
So what is the workshop, I guess? What are the workshops that you put on for universities? Like,
Yeah.
what do they achieve? As in, like, how does it bridge that gap, essentially?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a really good question. So I think it's useful to give a bit of context with the social enterprise that I did work with in India, because one of our workshops is based on the on-ground work that's happening. In India, littered roads are a common sight, and there are many reasons for why that is, but I won't go into that now. But women that live in poorer communities see this waste as an opportunity, and they take to the streets in the early hours of the morning, 2, 3 a.m., 4 a.m. in the morning, and pick up this waste from the roadside, walk around 8 to 10 kilometres, collecting around 15 to 20 kilograms of waste, take this waste back to their own homes, sort that waste, and then go to these scrap shops where they sell it to earn an income to provide for their family. And just to give a bit of context, in the city that I've worked in, there are around 30,000 of these women collecting around 20 kilograms of waste every single day, which means that 600,000 kilograms of waste has been collected from the streets by these women and facilitated to the recycling centre because of what they do every single day.
Wow.
So the work that they're doing is phenomenal. But because they have often no level of education, they're illiterate, when they go and sell this waste to these scrap shop dealers, they're often heavily exploited and underpaid for the work that they're doing. So what this social enterprise has done, recognising firstly the value that they're providing to these cities, is they've simply intervened in the market as a transparent and open actor, giving fair returns for the women's waste collection. So on day one, their incomes massively increase, but they take a real holistic approach to their kind of upliftment. So they'll take care of their health, really think about their family, pay for their children's education, bring the women together, build that sense of community. And as the enterprise has developed over the years, and in partnership with the United Nations Development Programme, they took the women off the streets, waste picking in an informal manner, and have brought them into the mainstream of waste management, where they go door to door, collecting segregated waste from households in a more formal and dignified way. So that's a bit of context into what the social enterprise does on the ground. But we've brought that development challenge into the classroom through an experiential workshop using kind of simulation role play and gamification. So as the participants walk into the room, we don't do any formal introductions, and we give them one of 3 roles that mimic real roles in India's Urban Waste Management Challenge. So one of the roles will be playing the part of these women that pick up this waste from the roadside. So in this classroom, there's this whole system playing out in a room where they're given individual tasks to complete. But at this stage, they don't know that they're playing the role of real people. So then in the debrief process, once they've took part in this simulation role play activity, when we reveal to them, you were actually playing the role of real people, real women that we've worked with every day on the ground, that's quite a deep and transformative moment for them, because they felt real emotions when they were taking part in that simulation activity. And what's really important in, as I'm sure you'll know, in any type of entrepreneurship, but particularly social entrepreneurship and social impact related work, deeply immersing yourself in the problem and building empathy with the stakeholders involved is super important before you go to solution mode. And I think that experiential nature of the first part of our workshop is really important to, I guess, get people to build that empathy with the real people involved. And it's that I think that then inspires action beyond the classroom. And then in the rest of the workshop, we get them to, through another game-based approach, get them to solve the problem that they've just experienced themselves through a kind of social enterprise game. And then we give them real problem statements that they ideate for to contribute further to the work that's going on the ground. So that gets them to ground their curiosities in a real problem that's going on in the world. But because our intention is to inspire action beyond the classroom, we'll then open up the opportunity for participants to then work with our network of social impact organisations. So just to give one example, we've then had students take these real problem statements that we've given them in the workshop, they've applied it to their master's project in innovation. Within a couple of months, they've then flown out to India, worked with the social enterprise on the ground, come up with an upcycling plastic waste solution, and then inspired by that whole journey, go on to secure working roles with social impact organisations post-graduation as a start to their professional careers. So I think the workshop serves the purpose of, they want to be involved in work that has a positive impact on the world, but they don't know how or what that looks like. So it enables them to kind of feel what it looks like, gives them a taste of that opportunity, and then post-graduation they're then able to really action that drive.
But also, like with developing nations, like this is the thing that always sort of like blows my mind, really, is that we in the bubble of the UK, the US, Europe, like we're always constantly building solutions for the problems that we see, of course. But we're all very highly educated and we're in that bubble, right? And what that essentially means is that we're building solutions for the problems that we see. But within developing nations, they have so many like problems that are so easily fixable, but there hasn't been like a good solution that's been come up with and then pushed to market, just because that talent isn't there. That knowledge gap isn't there, as you said. Now, there's huge value in, say, taking some of that resource, that mental capacity in UK, Europe, US, and applying it to developing nations. And the thing is, these problems are huge, and also there's the potential for revenue is also huge that people don't really speak about. It's not a charity thing. You can earn a lot of money with these things. Even simple things such as like payments and and waste, as you said, that sounds like a very basic thing, but like as you said, the optimal solution is not there. So it always kind of like staggers me that we're in this bubble right now, but there's just so many problems that exist in the majority of the world that haven't been addressed, that can so easily be addressed by things that we can come up with literally right now.
Exactly, and I think that's one of the kind of broader aims for the work that we're doing, is to firstly deepen young people's aspirations, because there's so much that they can contribute towards, and also to broaden their horizons beyond what they can see. You're right, we're living in our bubbles, right? But I think to be able to bring that kind of development challenge into the classroom in an immersive way, and then hopefully get them to become more curious about these things and kind of open up their perspectives, open up their minds, build that empathy, which I think is super important, will hopefully enable them to kind of deepen then the impact that they have on the world, right?
Yeah, but I think it might be a framing issue, honestly, because it's like whenever we are aware of these things, right? What you just told me in terms of like all the data and the statistics that women in India face this when it comes to waste management. We hear statistics like that all the time with various countries, various problems around the world. They don't stick. What sticks is going through the process of actually like going through that pain yourself through the gamification that you just talked about. And that's when, but it's not a fault of like us, I feel. It's just like a fault of like how we are as humans, right? We feel things stronger when it's more visceral. So that's it, like that, and then that's when our sort of like juices get flowing when it comes to like building solutions, because we're like, okay, this is a problem that actually I can feel firsthand.
Exactly. Let me ask you, right? When do you feel like you learn the best? Like, is it like through lectures and textbooks, or is it when you've actually physically experienced the problem for yourself?
Experience, yeah.
Right?
For sure.
Exactly. And I think that's where, so we try and like go beyond just intellectualization. So giving people knowledge, and there's so much, and especially in our kind of like technological age, and I think COVID has accelerated this, and especially at universities now, we're seeing so much is online content, and that's all good and well, and there's so much value in online delivery because it enables you to reach a whole wider scope of people, but that the deeper learning doesn't occur, right? So I think by gamification, simulation, role play, getting students to kind of play a role, and when they feel real emotions, it's what kind of takes their learning to a new level and what inspires that action beyond then the classroom. And I think it's that thing.
Yeah, it's not surprising that, say, like, I've had entrepreneurs on the podcast before that they say like first generation, or I don't know how you want to define it, but like first or second generation immigrants from, say, Indian family or Middle Eastern like developing nation family, and they're the ones that sort of like build the solutions. One that I'm thinking of very, very at the forefront of my mind is Nav, that built the washing machine project that you must know. He was on the podcast quite a while ago. he had an amazing job at Dyson, but because he kind of understood the pain that people go through when it comes to washing their clothes, he built a solution out of that. So, but if we can apply, you know, more brains to the solution to these problems, that maybe that don't have the knowledge, but like can, you know, that gap can be bridged, then yeah, I don't see why we can't develop the whole world rather than just our bubble.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing that I want to say is it's not just about kind of encouraging people to go out to developing nations. There's so much that we can contribute towards in our local communities.
Yeah,
and that's what
true.
we really try to encourage as well. Like, there's so much that you can contribute towards in the spaces around you. Like, even, and it's a fascinating thing around like our bubbles and the bubbles we put around ourselves. We put these bubbles around ourselves in our local communities as well, right? I think something that often comes up in our debrief conversations after they've just experienced that simulation activity of India's urban waste management challenge is that they often apply that learning to how we often just walk past, I guess, homeless people, right? We know that they're there, but it's just so much easier to walk past, and it sometimes feels like, what can we do, right? So I think it's just building that empathy, opening up our eyes, and knowing that, you know, there's so much.
I guess like what's the end goal for you when it comes to this business, Dan? Like where are you like? Yeah, so like I guess like what's the sort of like end goal when it comes to the purpose that you're trying to fulfill?
So our, I guess, deeper vision is to almost kind of see a paradigm shift where, like, we are enabled to allow young people to fulfill their potential and deepen the impact that they have on the world. Like, I see kind of, and especially from my own journey, right? I could easily have seen my path be so linear and the word that's come into my mind is basic, and my skill set not being channeled in a way that's useful for society.
It's a template. Yeah, it's a
right.
cookie cutter. Yeah,
exactly.
I understand.
So I think the kind of broader vision is if we can open up more of these types of opportunities, engage young people in a more dynamic way, and inspire them to apply their skills in a kind of more dynamic way that, you know, influences society for the better. I think that's kind of the ultimate aim, right? In order for them to deepen the impact that they have on the world and fulfill their own potential, right? There's like a key that we can unlock that can open up their minds.
Yeah, I think that's something that's very apparent with, say, our generation, is that impact is a very strongly held value, I think, within our generation. And yeah, a lot of the roles that are very prevalent with the whole sort of, I guess you said linear, they don't hit that impact aspect as much as say, you know, doing things with the local community or doing things with developing nations. So yeah, I can 100% see that. Like there needs to be that gap to be bridged, and this is definitely one solution that can do that, right? But there's tons of other ways to do these and to engage these people's minds, and I think you are seeing that, because it's like loads of people go into these jobs and they get to the age of like 25, 26, and they're like, do I actually like this? Have I just like climb some mountains have I just climbed some mountains I don't actually want to climb?
Exactly. It's that kind of that notion of you climbing this ladder, but then when you get to the top, you realise it's on the wrong wall.
Yeah.
It's exactly that, right? And I think that's where I was very lucky to have a lot of advice at a young age that kind of told me these stories, right? And I was very much told, don't work for just money until at least the age of 25. Right, just follow your curiosities, and eventually your curiosity will hopefully lead you to your passion, right? It's very hard to take that advice, but when you action it, you then realise kind of all the value that you can gain from taking, I guess, an alternative path. But I think that need for short-term money is such a pull for young people that they feel like they want that financial independence, which I get, right? I really feel it. I still feel financially insecure in what I do. But there's so much value beyond money that can hopefully kind of enrich your life in another way. And like you said, there is money in what we do as well. Like, I'm not saying there isn't.
Yeah.
But there's that short versus long-term gratification. I think, especially in an entrepreneurial path, right? In order to get to where you want to be, you're going to have to go through a short-term struggle or even a medium to long-term struggle before you see those kind of financial rewards. So if you can just kind of build that patience in people, where they can kind of take those actionable steps to start kind of building their own thing, and delay that gratification, I think that's really important as well.
But again, yeah, in entrepreneurship generally, that message is very prevalent. But when it comes to building things in social enterprise or building things for, I guess industries that aren't as lucrative on the face of it, that's when it's like, if I delay gratification, will that reward ever come?
And this is where the magic is in taking action. So once you start taking action in whatever social impact field that you want, what you realize is that you feel the value beyond the money, right? When you're working for something bigger than yourself, you feel that extra motivation, you feel that extra responsibility. The relative challenges that you feel are, you can build that perspective on what you're contributing towards. I remember straight after graduation, when I was tasked to kind of build these experiential workshops and sell it to universities, I was like, what am I doing wasting my time on my last summer holiday doing this, like, for no money? But then when I realized kind of the work that the women do on the ground every single day, you kind of gain a bit of perspective on your relative struggles. And it also reminds you and gives you a sense of responsibility of what you're trying to contribute towards, which is something bigger than yourself. So when you start actioning something within this kind of social impact space, you feel the value beyond just the money, right? And it enables you to keep on going and it keeps you motivated. So I think that's what's really important. Get out of your head, get out of the room, take action, right? And once you start taking action, you'll feel the positive reinforcement beyond just the money, I think.
But again, that's just like something that we've been sold, is like that you need that money. That's the thing that we've been sold from a young age. And it's like, then you start going after things where, again, it doesn't fulfill those goals that you have inherently in your mind. And yeah, it leads to sort of like longer term unhappiness, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
So I guess if there's a way that people can sort of like bridge that gap, then that I can definitely see that. But I think another thing is like, how do you incentivize younger people that are literally straight out of university, who might not have that understanding of themselves, where they know maybe deep down they are driven by impact, but they might realize it too late. No, not even too late, but just like a few years down the line. I guess like there's one thing showing them that the problem exists, and there's another thing showing them that you might find more fulfillment down this road rather than that road.
Yeah, it's a tough challenge, and I think that's where, again, going back to building that empathy in them and getting them to feel the challenges for themselves, then encourages them to take that action, right? And I think that's the gap that we're bridging. So I think, but the opportunities are so scarce, right? So getting them to get out of the room, whether it's through our experiences or through seeking local volunteering experiences, like getting out of the room, speaking to people, understanding, and building empathy with the people that you're trying to help is really important. And I think the kind of social impact journey is twofold. It's not just external, but it's also internal, right? Everything in our internal world is a product. So everything in our external world is a product of our internal world. So the internal world is very much related to the external. There's a quote by one of the people that, one of the founders of the NGO that I work closely with in Gandhi Ashram in India, who says that service is external meditation and meditation is internal service. So I think that journey of deeply exploring our internal worlds is, I think, a really important dynamic which will then enable us to think more clearly about what our values are and what we want to do. So I think that's an important journey. So that time to pause and reflect on what we're doing in our fast-paced world, I think is really important.
I think that's a wonderful note to actually end the podcast on. So,
It's gone so
Alan,
quick.
yeah,
I can't believe. Has it really gone that quick?
that's the way it is.
Oh, unbelievable.
Yeah, well, yeah, like 30 minutes. Yeah.
Oh, unbelievable. I was wondering, do you have like a bit of time, like 5 minutes?
Yeah, of course.
I remember. So I was saying to you before that I used to have a podcast, and at the end of each podcast, I used to give like these 3 big talk questions. So if it's okay, I would like to spin it.
Yeah, let's go.
So question 1, and the notion of like big talk is like skipping past the small talk and asking more kind of deeper, more personal kind of questions to build that kind of sense of connection. So question 1, past or present, anyone in the world, who would you most like to have as a dinner guest?
See, this is quite interesting because normally I'm the one that sort of does the questions and answering.
I've just thrown this on
asking
you.
them. No, it's good. It's an interesting dynamic, and like I do appreciate it a lot. Okay, so past or present dinner guest. There's not very many people actually, from my side, but I think someone like Leonardo da Vinci would be quite an interesting person.
Why is
because
that? Yeah.
he, in my opinion, yes, he's known for his artwork, but he was more of a pioneer in other areas like engineering and even things like philosophy and like societal, like going against societal norms. I think a conversation with someone like him where it's just so different to what we're used to in the 21st century right now would be a very interesting one. I think when it comes to entrepreneurship, then yeah, like someone like Elon Musk would be an interesting one just because it's like what he's achieved in his life. But I think in terms of a conversation where I think I'd get the most energy out of, I think someone like Leonardo da Vinci. Although I don't know if he speaks English, so I don't know. There'll be a language barrier.
AI will help you with that.
Yeah. All right, next question.
Got time? For what in your life are you most grateful?
Family. Yeah, family. I think that's so important just because when you're young, that's all you really have. And that really sets the foundation for the person that you are today. And you don't realize it when you're younger, you realize it when you're older. And so when I'm at the age right now, I realize sort of more and more that why my parents did certain things to the stage that I am right now. And yeah, it makes me more grateful and it makes me very appreciative. So yeah, I think family. But then secondary to that, obviously, well, not even secondary, like alongside would be health, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think health is like the number one thing that, like, if you have good health, like you can action so much. You can be like your level of awareness, what you can do on a day-to-day basis. I've had a few health issues which have like really massively kind of not derailed what I do, but like it's a daily struggle, right? And I always like, if I had amazing health, like it would just really transform what I do.
Yeah, both mental and physical. Like like
it's just
Maya
amazing.
on the last episode.
Oh.
That's exactly what we talked about.
Yeah.
It's like mental fitness, and yeah, I think very, very important and something that I think everyone should actively work on.
Yeah, absolutely. Last question. What is one thing, only one thing, that you want to do before you die?
That's a really good question. These are decent questions, actually.
No worries.
Is the podcast no longer around though?
No longer around, but I'd love to bring it back at some point.
Should be brought back. These are good questions. Maybe I should be asking them. But yeah, in terms of one thing I want to do before I die, I guess like getting recognised in the street would be quite funny. Like for the podcast, these are quite vanity driven. No, I think yeah, something like that. But someone saying like that really like impacted me. Whether it be something that listening to a podcast that I've recorded, or using one like, because I've got my own business called Wing, and maybe someone using that and like really, really liking it. Or if, actually one thing that I've thought about a lot, and again this is quite vanity, is like I've always thought like me being on the tube and then me looking across and like someone has one of our products like on the back of their phones, and like but like I don't know them, they don't know me. I've just sort of walked into them. I don't say anything to them. I just like go out like with the rest of my day. That'd be quite cool because it's like I know that I've reached the scale where people are using what I've built or are engaging with content that I've created without even sort of like knowing me.
Yeah.
I think that would be a very cool thing, and I don't think I'm sort of too far off that. But yeah, that would be something that I would sort of get a lot of happiness from.
What's important there is that kind of going back to like my question, you're already doing the thing that, you know, you want to be doing before you die, because as a result of doing this, you will eventually achieve that at some stage, right?
Yeah, because it's like a hard journey, because it's like even the podcast that we do right now, there's a lot of work that goes into this, and I'm only going to be putting in more work because, you know, as I told you before, we're going to get more sort of camera angles, we're going to sort of level up this, we're going to do more sort of like put more budget into like editing and stuff like that. It's not an easy thing to put out there. There's not as much sort of monetary gain from it at the moment, but from my perspective, it's like the foundation is set for people in like, you know, global scale in order to like get value from my guests. So that's the reason why I do it, essentially. And like the same with like the other stuff I'm building. It's like I would love for businesses, individuals to use them, but again, without even knowing me.
No, absolutely. And that's like that piece around kind of removing the ego from the work that you're doing, right? Because like,
so I know it's helped someone.
Exactly. And that's really
so when I say vanity, I guess like on the surface it does look like vanity, but the main sort of goal is, it's helped someone, it's impacted someone, it's changed their perspective on something. Those things for me, like, I would love to have that. Even one person, honestly. Like I know everyone says that if it impacts one person, I'll be happy. But for me, if it impacts someone deeply, then I would be like one person, then I'll be very, very happy with that.
Absolutely. And I think that's actually a nice way to end the podcast, because what you've just said there very much relates to what we've just spoken about around like, of course, feeling the value beyond just the money, right? The reason you're doing this podcast is something beyond just yourself. Right?
For sure. Wonderful note to end on, actually. So Anand, how can people stay in touch with you and what you're up to?
I think the easiest place is probably just LinkedIn. Anand Mistry on LinkedIn, and ProjectCHAKRA on LinkedIn as well.
All right, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming, and I'm sure we'll speak very soon. Thank you so much.
Amazing. It's been an honour. Thank you so much for inviting me. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you, mate.